the Bipolar General?
I started writing it in March of 2021 at the start of COVID.
And how long did it take?
It took me a year to write the manuscript from start to finish. Um, and then it took me another year to find a publisher, and then another year to actually get it in print and out on the street.
Okay. How did the editing go?
Really good. I took the manuscript and farmed it out to trusted people, family members, smart people, an expert psychiatrist, and they went through it with a fine tooth comb, gave me some great advice, edits. And then once I started working with the editor, who was the Naval Institute Press, they were terrific. They assigned the senior editor. He went through the entire manuscript. His first big task was to cut it from 165,000 words to 80,000 words. And that was a huge task that I probably couldn't have done on my own. But this guy did a terrific job.
It's so much easier to cut than it is to add. So if you only have 30,000 words and Naval Institute wants to publish your book, they're going to say, where's the rest of it?
Right.
So cutting is a whole lot easier than adding. But so you had almost 200,000 words. That's a lot of writing. You probably had over 200,000 with your own editing and everything else. I get clients periodically as a book coach, a book editor, publisher, 800 pages, and get it down to, they absolutely have to have it's 400 and some. But again, that's what they want. I'm not Naval Institute. I'm making people happy. Mm-hmm. But you wrote your book, you got it edited. When did you start marketing it?
The summer of 2023. So the Naval Institute Press, they've got a marketing program, getting the word out, working with other organizations and venues. So I'd say it started the summer before release, and then it picked up steam during, the fall around the time of release. And they worked it for about another year. As well as the Association of the United States Army, who they also were kind of a co-publisher.
You got some good people working there to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your book was marketed a little bit early. What kind of ways did they market your book? Social media, magazines? What was going on?
I would say social media, magazines, and then through a network of other affiliates that they have. For example, West Point has a big book program, so they put a piece in the West Point magazine and online. Other aspects of the U.S. Navy, there's military history outlets and things like that. So they worked it to get the word out in little concise synopses of the book through their channels. I don't think it was marketed all that well because it didn't get out in the university world. It didn't really get out in the medical world or the med school world. It didn't really get out in the business world. So those are things that picked up later, really based on my own initiative and contacts.
Okay, so you're looking at it from who really should know this as opposed to this is where a book goes.
Correct.
Okay, and likely size, that makes all the sense in the world. Okay, so you have a website. Did the website come up before you actually published the book, or is that something after the fact?
Came up before. It was kind of interesting. When I got the manuscript done and was searching for a publisher, I decided I'm not going to just sit back on my heels and wait. And so what I did is I basically took the manuscript and wrote a condensed article that captured the essence. And I got it out to an online national security journal called Task and Purpose. And anyway, it just exploded. It went wild. Over 100,000 readers, went all over the world. Drew a lot of attention, and I started getting requests for interviews and speaking and things like that. So I put together the website to facilitate that back in about May of 2022.
One of the things I want to congratulate you on your website is you have a section there for an addendum that I was going through doing research on you, and that's something I've never really seen, particularly from an author's perspective. It may be there for some, professional speakers, but from an author's perspective, that was something that was a kind of a surprise. It gives a very wide, and not to say diverse because it wasn't, but focused aspect of what's happening throughout each of the chapters. Kind of chronicles the progress of the book, and brings out really the highlights. So if somebody really wanted to know a little bit more about it without buying the book, and I'm looking forward to buying the book, tell you right now, is that it's something I think of immense value in a website, and I'm trying to think to myself, how can I do that to mine?
Excellent.
So, did you use AI anywhere?
No, I did not.
Okay. A lot of times AI is really good. I use it for videos, for marketing. I use it for a lot of different things. I research the human body at the cellular level. I really have a lot of in-depth analysis that I do. So I use it all the time. I'm probably on there at least an hour or more every day. And so it's more brainstorming than it is anything else. But for me, it works out very, very well. For a biography, for a romance novel, for a sci-fi novel, there might be bits and pieces that you might use, but I can easily see where it's not being used in there. Cover design. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we came up with a bunch of different titles, various variations of what's on there. And when I laid them out, to the publisher, they immediately loved the title Bipolar General, My Forever War with Mental Illness. So that was like an immediate yes. Then I had about a half a dozen good pictures. We wanted to put a picture of me on the cover. And there were about a half a dozen good, solid pictures that we found, laid them out, and then immediately the head of the press said, "That's the one." And he told his people. I mean, it took him 5 seconds to decide, and he said, "Go purchase that. Do a contract, get that photo, so we own it." And that was pretty much it. The size of the lettering and the way they put it together. They kind of took the title and the picture and they did their sort of artwork on putting it together. And I didn't have a whole lot to say about that aspect, but the title and the picture, I was intimately involved in, and they were yes on both.
I guess the meds, the lithium, whatever you were taking at the time as you were writing the book, was there any interference from the bipolar as part of actually creating the book and editing and marketing it?
No, none at all. In fact, my bipolar condition, which at that point was pretty much being managed, it was under control. So there was no, high level mania. There was no deep depression. So I was in this near continuous state of mild, productive mania for the entire writing of the book. So living on the bipolar spectrum actually helped me with energy, drive, focus, enthusiasm, creativity. So if anything, it helped me.
Interesting. How long did it take you to get adjusted to where the meds were actually being effective?
Well, I was diagnosed in November of 2014 after, years of mania. And then I fell into a terrible depression and also psychosis. Plus I had, all kinds of recurring thoughts of suicide. So in November 2014, I got the correct diagnosis, bipolar type 1 with psychosis, with PTSD. And for about 2 years, they were giving me different medications and treatments, and nothing worked. None of the meds helped me. I did electric shock therapy, didn't work. I was hospitalized. And then I finally started taking lithium about 10 years ago. And remarkably, within inside of a week taking lithium, my symptoms of depression, suicidality, psychosis, and any return to mania, they all went away. And so it happened that fast in about a week after 2 years of, well, actually, 10, 20, 30 years of very active bipolar. So it was a quick effect. And, lithium is the gold standard for bipolar disorder, and it worked extremely well for me.
So if you're talking about 30 years you've had this, when did you actually start to recognize that you might have a problem, or did someone tell you?
So I first recognized something was going on in 2003, '04, when I returned from the Iraq War, where I was high and, really in a high performing mania for the whole year of combat, where I was a brigade commander in charge of about 10,000 troops. And so I performed really well, high energy. I now realize I was in a mania, but it was a highly productive mania. But when I got home from the war, I crashed into terrible depression, terrible. And I realized then, I didn't know it was bipolar disorder. I just said, hey, there's something wrong. This is not right that I've gone from such high energy, creativity, extroversion, all of that, to now I'm so low that I'm having a hard time functioning. Went to the doctor multiple times in depression over the next few years, and they said, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And they couldn't see past the fact that I was a high performer, so they were blind to any type of mental illness. And then most of the time I was in mania, but when I was in mania, I felt great, like the smartest guy in the world, like I felt like $1 million. So I never thought anything was wrong. So it wasn't until 2014, 12 year, 10 years after I got home from Iraq, that I went into full blown mania. I still didn't know anything was wrong, but all the people around me did. And they started writing anonymous letters to my boss and my chain of command. And I ended up getting the chairman of the Joint Chiefs did an assessment and decided to fire me, force me into retirement, ordered me to get a psychiatric evaluation. And then that ultimately led to just a terrible bipolar crisis and ultimately hospitalization.
Now, if I remember reading, you had John Hopkins misdiagnose you 3 times. Is that right?
It was actually Walter Reed.
Walter Reed. Okay. And you would think the experts there would be, but as you say, if you're a high performer, that kind of negates a lot of things. And even, is there a mental problem? I can see the disconnect.
Absolutely. So being a high performer sort of hides and masks the condition to the doctors. They just can't see it. And that's not just in the military. I mean, that's in business, government, sports, arts. So they didn't see it. And they didn't have a complete picture. So when I went in a state of mania, I was very articulate, fluent, enthusiastic, convincing, and I wasn't trying to hide anything, but I came across in the most positive manner possible. In fact, one of the psychiatrists said that I was the most mentally stable flag officer he had ever seen. But then when I fell into depression, it was a different story. And I went back for my 4th evaluation at Walter Reed. This time my wife came with me, and the doctor looked at me, same guy, and he said, "You're depressed." And that was true. But what he didn't connect the dots on was that I had been manic for much of the time before. So he didn't put the bipolar manic depression together. And my wife said, "Yeah, doctor, you're right. He's depressed now, but before he was manic." And suddenly the doctor, he lit up and he said, "Describe what you mean by manic." So Maggie gave him the symptoms and he said, "Oh my gosh, mania, depression, this is bipolar disorder." And he got the diagnosis correct, which was really a blessing for me, because you have to get the diagnosis right so you can begin to understand the condition to take appropriate action to get better.
For the audience who may not know what bipolar is or manic, or I'm sure that we've heard the term mental illness, and there's so many different kinds. In fact, you're saying lithium. They use low dose lithium for potential Alzheimer's treatment. It's a very, very low dose. So it's interesting how it still works in the brain, but in a different part of the brain. But so if you were defining, if you would say, tell me something, what are the symptoms of bipolar? What are the symptoms of manic depression? Could you kind of give us a little bit of a brief on that?
Yes. A good way to understand bipolar disorder is to think of it as a spectrum. And, prior to 1980, the condition was called manic depressive illness, tying together the idea of a spectrum ranging from, what we now call major depressive disorder. So, depression, on one far side of the spectrum, all the way through a range of conditions, all the way to unipolar mania on the other, and lots of different levels of high level being mania to low level being depression, various combinations of them to different levels of extremity. So that's kind of, the big picture of it. In a more narrow definition, I would say bipolar disorder is a person cycling with various degrees of speed, height of mania, depth of depression, but cycling between some level of mania and then some level of depression with also, normal levels in between. But mania is characterized by high levels of energy, less need for sleep. A lot of creativity, drive, focus. You don't need as much sleep. And in the higher levels, it begins to be characterized by some really destructive things like very serious impulsivity, grandiosity, religiosity, tremendous sexual promiscuity, irrational decisions like suddenly quitting a high-powered, well-paying job and have nothing to go to. I mean, that would be kind of a manic impulsive decision. So there's a whole bunch of these characteristics that put together define these different levels of mania from low to high. And in high levels of mania, I mean, it can lead to losing your job, being arrested, all kinds of negative outcomes. So it's a dangerous condition. Depression, on the other hand, is really just the opposite. Low energy, isolation, withdrawal, confusion, inability to get the wherewithal to do basic daily tasks. Even getting out of bed is super difficult. Taking a shower can be crippling. Going and buying food at a grocery store can be overwhelming. And so you've got these two different conditions along the manic depressive spectrum. And then underneath the higher levels of mania and the deeper levels of depression are what they call, there's lower levels called mood temperaments. Like one of the things that I have, and it benefited me tremendously, is a mood temperament of what they call hyperthymia, which is a near continuous low-level mania. So I had that since I was a teenager, unknown, unrecognized, undiagnosed. But what it did is it gave me this consistent high energy, drive, enthusiasm, problem solving skills, creativity. And it took whatever talents I had and it boosted and elevated them and helped make me extremely successful as a student, an athlete, and a leader, and really helped propel me to the high ranks of the Army.
We're getting ready to go to commercial break here very quickly. We'll be back in about a minute and a half. When we come back, I'd like to talk about stress and PTSD and your experience with that. So we'll be back in just a moment.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Loughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore, and I'm honored to be here today with Major General Gregg Martin. Greg, please join me back up here on stage. Okay, just before the break, I said I wanted to go down the path of stress and PTSD. Obviously, anytime you're in a war zone, even if you're not in the actual combat, there's stress. There's just everything's going on. With a high level of mania, that gives you an advantage, doesn't it? Can you hear me? Okay. I don't know if we have a technical problem right now or not, so I'm just going to continue talking. Greg, are you back with me again? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Okay. Cannot hear me. Okay, let's see what we can do here to fix this. Check my connections, reset that. Why don't you talk? Give me.
I can't hear anything, Red.
Okay, so we have two audios we can hear, but he can't hear I can hear him, he can't hear me.
Red, not hearing you. I can see that you're talking, but I can't hear anything.
Okay. Let me see how we can figure out to get this one fixed. Production engineer come in and make a adjustment here. I'm checking my part of this. Okay, that's not working. That's okay. And Dr. Jacqueline, I'm open. Okay. Hopefully he'll come back in and everything will be fine. Okay, we have he is a doctor. We have Major General Gregg Martin, PhD, and he wrote a book called The Bipolar General. And we're sitting here, we talked a little bit about the actual book production, everything he did to get it there, the publishers that he used, the marketing that he used, and pretty well done. Now we're starting to get into the content of the book. And the content we're talking about right now is stress and PTSD. We've already talked about the bipolar, manic depressive, mental illness aspects, and we're trying now to dive into some other parts of it. And hopefully he will have the ability to come back in one more time. And mental illness is, okay, they're talking about what you've seen. Okay.
Hey, Red, I can hear you now.
Okay, testing 1, 2, you can hear me, great.
Yes.
Technology, you can't live with it, can't live without it.
I know.
It is what it is. Sometimes it happens. Okay, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're smiling. So we're going to keep going. Okay, before the break, I said, let's talk about stress and PTSD. And I was just introducing when we came back and you couldn't hear me. I said, when you're in a war zone, even if you're not in combat, you're still stressed. And I'm asked the question, being on a higher than normal level of mania, does that give you an advantage with that stress?
I think that's a really, really good question. So, I had bipolar disorder. I was in mania. And I think that the stress of the job, the stress of combat, the pressure, it feeds into and fuels the mania and makes it go higher. And so in a way, I think, and that's, I've never been asked that question before. I think when you go into mania, it probably builds up kind of a force field and a shield that is protective against some of the worst elements of the stress and the PTSD and that kind of thing. And then later, I think when you settle down into a more normal state, I think that PTSD and pressure and stress and all that goes with it kind of fuels and elevates the mania. So it's a bit of a mixed reaction.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is, for my book right now that's out there on aging, one of the things is stress management, and stress creates a lot of individual molecular problems in the body, brain and otherwise, a lot of neurodegenerative stuff. So my thinking is that if stress activates it, maybe stress management controls it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Too analytical on this thing. I know from a depression and anxiety perspective, there's some dietary options that work very, very well. But I don't know if anybody ever talked to you about diet and everything you were going through with the mental illness, because those are issues that are also controllable to a degree.
Yes. So based on the research and the understanding that I have, there's, pros and cons of various types of diets. And the one that the bipolar research community of scientists and so forth have kind of settled on for now as being the most effective is the Mediterranean diet. And so that's what my wife and I are on. We're taking that. And so there may be something better out there or in the future, but that's what we're doing now.
Okay, so it's a lower level of omega-6, which reduces the inflammation. It's a higher level of omega-9, which is the olive oil, which there's a lot of unknown about it. But if you look at it from testimonial data over centuries, there's a lot to be said for it. So I think if nothing else, it stabilizes a level that you can live with, and the drugs and everything else and other emotional issues around you. That's a stable item. That's something that doesn't change. So that helps with stability immensely.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so you got diagnosed, you lost your command, you retired, you found a new career. Now you're speaking, you're supporting, you're providing awareness and education to the world. And I think you made a comment, or maybe I saw it in one of your writings, that 20% of people have some level of mental illness. And I'm not talking about just anxiety or depression, because that comes and goes. But what is your awareness of what we're doing now to help educate people on mental illness?
Well, I think especially in the United States, the awareness and the open-mindedness and the understanding of the actual physical, biological reality of mental illness, I think it has really grown over the past, say, couple decades. And I know it has grown enormously in the US military, the veterans community, in the university world, et cetera. So there's an increasing awareness. And then out of that, I think you're having more and better research going on in academia, in the medical community, and so forth. More and more of these nonprofits are coming up, and many of them do excellent work. I mean, they really integrate the world of science, research, clinicians, patients, families, medication, and they're making a huge difference. A good example of that is NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I mean, wonderful organization, over 400,000 people in a grassroots organization from a national level. All 50 states have a state level, and then over 300 local affiliates. And they offer broad, comprehensive programs in, education, peer support, family support. They have scientific and medical expertise that if a person calls in with a problem or an issue, they can help connect them to medical professionals in their area and get the treatment and the help they want. So I would say a lot of positive movement. And in particular, I would say in the business world, also academia, and to a slightly lesser degree in the military, there's much more of an effort to connect people with the professional medical experts to help them get an accurate diagnosis, assessment, and a program, and then accommodations are being made for people. Quick example, like in the military before 9/11, if anybody was taking any kind of psychiatric medication for pretty much anything, anxiety, depression, PTSD, what have you, they would get separated medically from the US military. But over the course of the 20-year war against terrorism, they were separating so many people, they couldn't man the force. And so the military said, you know what, we need to better understand this and accommodate our troops because we're going to run out of people and we can't get our mission done. And so the military started making accommodations for people with anxiety, PTSD, depression, etc. They still hold a very hard line on serious mental illness like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. But that's just an example how the military and other institutions are really working to understand, help, support, and accommodate their workforce who have some kind of a mental condition.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned earlier about being the difficulty in diagnosing it, and we're getting toward the end of the show. I wanted to, what triggered in my mind was, something like a manager who is a functional alcoholic. He's going to do everything, but he's going to hide it. You're not hiding it because you didn't know it, but the high level masks just like somebody's doing it on purpose. And if that's part of the issue, I'm wondering if they are diagnosing somebody, is that something in the back of their mind that if this person is a high level performer and has been forever, is that a mask or not? But I'm not going to answer that question today. I'm just throwing that out there for the audience to consider, because it is, if you were able to do it and not even know it, then what about people who do know it and can take advantage of it? So, but Greg, tell me, how do people get in touch with you? You have any events coming up, speaking events? How do they buy your books? Tell us.
Yes. First off, the book Bipolar General is available anywhere books are sold. Probably the easiest way to get one is through Amazon. I've got a website, bipolargeneral.com, that's got a whole bunch of articles, interviews, podcasts, webinars, et cetera, tons of info on there. I have a really robust speaking schedule starting up in September. I'm going to speak at the Florida NAMI conference in Orlando in early September. Then I go to Washington, D.C. The next day, and I speak at a veterans conference. Then I go to Ohio, and I speak at the Ohio Health Commission conference as keynote. Then I go to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and I'm going to speak there to the Air Force. And then it just continues, October, November, December, lots and lots of speaking events, which I love because it gets a chance to encourage, teach, inspire, and give people hope and knowledge.
Greg, it's been really, really, I want to say the word nice, but it's not nice. It's been really educational. I truly appreciate your insights because it's something I was totally unaware of. And so from that perspective, I think we learned a little bit about, if you're recovering bipolar, you can write books. There's an audience out there that will listen to you. You got the marketing done. You got the right people to listen to you. You have a message that's going out that really and truly is of immense value to the world. And I wish you the best in your speaking tours. And I look forward, I'm sure somewhere down the road, we're going to bump into each other again. If not on TV, you never know.
Thanks, Red. It's been really a privilege and an honor to be on with you and your audience. So thank you very much.
Take care. Corner Bookstore is concluding with Greg today. I'm Red O'Laughlin. I'm a researcher. I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. And I was reading something this morning from social media somewhere. It says that doctors are trained to diagnose, but they're not trained to build health. And that kind of goes along with my particular thinking. My book, Aging Sucks, just came out last week. It talks about, it's not a health book. It's not an anti-aging book. It's not a longevity book. It's a book about understanding the complexities of aging. There's a lot of things going on in the human body at the cellular level, and those things are all driven by your lifestyle choices, your diet, your exercise, your stress management, your sleep. They can either create disease, damage, or they can support repair. So long as your repair exceeds your damage, you're going to be a healthy camper. With that, I'm going to leave you, and my next show is called The Wise Ones, and I'll be talking about success primarily with health in your later years. So, Red O'Loughlin signing off, and we'll catch you later on. Bye now.
Every great story begins with a vision. At USA Global TV and Radio for years, we've been providing world-class education, entertainment, inspiration, imagination, connections, and hope. Most people don't stay to watch the outro or the credits, but it's the people behind every success, behind every breakthrough, and behind every unforgettable story who matter. The TV show hosts, our guests, our sponsors, our publicists, our production team, our distribution team, our search engine optimization team, and so many more. You're the ones who make the difference. Every great story belongs to the people who bring it to life. Our future looks bright at USA Global TV and Radio, and that's because of you, our loyal fan base all around the world in more than 60 countries. Together, we're making a difference because you matter. USA Global TV and Radio, live streaming to over 60 countries. Voiceover, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Video production and direction, Paul Garcia. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV and Radio on YouTube.
Hey you, psst, yes you, watching this right now. Are you creating content, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter, going live on Instagram or TikTok, and still not seeing real visibility or growth? Here's why. Anyone can post, anyone can go live, but not everyone is positioned to be taken seriously. Right now, people are going to YouTube to search for experts, for answers, for credibility. So while you're putting in the work, someone else is being seen as the authority. Not because they know more, because they're positioned better. Now imagine this. Your own professionally produced TV show, marketed, distributed, optimized with SEO so people can actually find you. Not just seen, but searchable, discoverable, positioned. You're trained, you're coached, you're guided. No experience necessary, but you do have to be coachable, because this is about stepping into a higher level. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing it right. We've already built the platform, 2 YouTube channels, a global audience, a Silver Creator Award. So the question is, how much longer are you going to rely on temporary visibility when you could be building real authority? If you're ready to be seen differently, go to usaglobaltv.com and apply to host your own show. This is for individuals who are serious about investing in their visibility, their credibility, and their growth. If that's you, we're ready. USA Global TV and Radio, where your voice becomes your platform. Executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer, Paul Garcia. Voiceover, Ed Vargas. All rights reserved. This production is the exclusive property of the USA Global TV and Radio and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without written permission.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.